What are you waiting for me to tell you? What good will it do? What if I told you that this isn't a funeral? That it's a holiday celebration, that if you stick around, the band will end up playing, damn it to hell, the fun's all over. Or do you expect to see some magic? The dead rise up and walk again? Go home. Forget him. He's as dead as he'll ever die. That's the end in the beginning, and there is no encore. There'll be no miracles, and there's no one here to preach a sermon. Go home. Forget him. He's in this box, newly dead. Go home and don't think about him. He's dead, and you've got all you can do to think about you. I told you to go home, but you keep standing there. Don't you know it's a little cold out here? So what if you wait for what little I can tell you? Can I tell you in 20 minutes what took 21 years to build and ended in 20 seconds? Why wait for more when all I can tell you is his name? And once I've told you, what else will you know except perhaps his name? All right? All right. You do the listening, and I'll try to do the telling. Then you go home and forget it. Forget it. His name was Oscar Grant, and they shot him. His name was Michael Brown, and he was tall. And some folks thought him handsome. And although he didn't believe it, I think he was. His name was Eric Garner, and his face was black, and his hair was thin and tight rolled curls. You can call them naps or kinks. He's dead. Uninterested. And except to a few young ladies, it doesn't matter. Have you got it? Can you see him? Think of your brother or your cousin Junior. His lips were thick with an upward curve at the corners. He often smiled. He had good eyes and a pair of fast hands, and he had a heart. He thought about things and he felt deeply. I won't call him noble, because what's such a word to do with one of us? His name was Freddie Gray. And like any man, he was born of a woman to live a while and then fall and then die. So that's his tale to the minute.
Strange fruit hanging from the poplar tree.
His name was Trayvon Martin. And for a while, he lived among us. And for a while, he aroused the hopes in the young manhood of man. And those who knew him loved him. Then he died. So why are you waiting? You've heard it all. Why wait for more when all I can do is repeat it? Very well. So I'll tell you. His name was Walter Scott.
There's no peace.
And he was young. And he was a leader. And when he fell, he had a hole in the heel of his socks. And when he was stretched out forward, he didn't look as tall as when he stood. So he died. And we here who loved him are gathered here to mourn him. It's as short as that and as simple as that. His name was Akai Gurley, and he was black, and they shot him down. Isn't that enough to appease your thirst for drama and send you home to sleep it off? Go back to the bar, have a drink, and forget it. Or read it in the Daily News. His name was Jonathan Farrell. And they shot him. And I was there to see him fall. So I know it as I know it. These are the facts. He was standing and he fell. He fell and he kneeled. He kneeled and he bled. He bled and he died. He fell like a heap like any man, and his blood spilled like any blood. Red as any blood. Wet as any blood. And it reflected the buildings and the sky and the birds and the trees. And your face, if you had taken the time to look into its dulling mirror. And then the blood dried in the sun as blood dries.
Wade in the water. Wade in the water. Children, wade.
They spilled his blood and he bled. They cut him down and he died. The blood pooled on the sidewalk and gleamed a while. And then after a while, grew dull, then dusty, then dried. That's the story, and that's how it ended. It's an old story, and there's been way too much blood to excite you. Besides, it's only important when it runs through the veins of a living man. Aren't you tired of such stories? Aren't you sick of the blood? Then why listen? Why don't you go home? It's cold out here. But the beers will be cold in the taverns. The saxophones will be mellow at the Savoy. There'll be plenty of good old laughing lies being told at the barber shops and beauty parlors. There'll be sermons in 200 churches in the cool of the evening, and there'll be plenty of laughs at the movies. Go home. Go listen to Dave Chappelle and forget it. Here you have only the same old story. There's not even a young wife up here dressed in red to mourn him. There's nothing here to pity. No one here to break down and shout. Nothing here to give you that good, old, frightened feeling. The story's too short and too simple. His name was Tamir Rice. And he was unarmed. And his death was as senseless as his life was futile. He had struggled on 100 street corners for brotherhood, and he thought it would make him more human. But he died like any dog in a row.
Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying.
All right. All right. All right. Listen to me standing up on this so-called mountain.
Go tell it on the mountain.
Let me tell it as it truly was. His name was Shaun Bell, and he was full of illusions. He thought he was a man, but he was only John Crawford. He was shot for a simple mistake in judgment, and he bled. And the blood dried, and then soon the crowd would trample out the stains. It was a normal mistake of which many of us are guilty. He thought he was a man, and that men were not meant to be pushed around. But it was hot downtown. And he forgot his history. He forgot the time, and he forgot the place. He lost his hold on reality. There was a cop and a waiting audience, but he was only Ramarley Grant. And there are cops everywhere. The cop? What about him?
What about him?
He was a cop. A good citizen. But this cop had an itching finger and an eager ear for a word that rhymed with trigger. And when he shot him, he found it. The police special spoke its lines, and the rhyme was completed. Just look around you. Look at what he made. Huh? Look inside you and feel its awful power. It was all so natural. The blood ran like blood in a comic book killing, in a comic book street, in a comic book town, on a comic book day, in a comic book world. Kajemi Powell
We love him.
is one with the ages. But what's that have to do with all of you standing out here? Now he's a part of history, and he has received his true freedom. Didn't they scribble his name on a standardized pad? His race, colored. Religion, unknown. Probably born Baptist. Place of birth, United States. Some southern town. Next of kin, unknown. Address, unknown. Occupation, unemployed. Cause of death, be specific. Resisting reality in the form of a .38 caliber revolver in the hands of the arresting officer in the heat of the afternoon on 42nd Street between the subway and the library. From 3 bullets, gunshot wounds, from 3 bullets fired at 3 paces, one here, the other severing the spinal ganglia and traveling downward to lodge in the pelvis, the other breaking the back and traveling God knows where. Such was the short and bitter life of Kamani Gray. Now he's in the box with the bolts tightened down. He's in the box and we're in there with him. And once I've told you this, you can go. It's dark in the box and it's crowded. It has rats and roaches, and it's far, far too expensive a dwelling. The air is bad, and it'll be cold this winter. Azell Ford is in the box. It's crowded, and he needs the room. Tell them to get out of the box, is what he would say if we could hear him. Tell them to get out of the box and teach those cops to forget that rhyme. Tell them to teach those cops that if they call you nigger, to make a rhyme with trigger, that the gun backfires. So there you have it. In a few hours, remain Brisbane will be cold bones in the ground. And don't be fooled, because those bones shall not rise again. You and I are still in the box. I don't know if Victor White had a soul. I only know the ache that I feel in my heart, my sense of loss. I don't know if you have a soul. But I do know that you all here are humans of flesh and blood, and that blood will spill and flesh grow cold.
Walking round this creation.
Oh,
Everybody's asking who we are.
oh, place to be in,
Let your
mind be free.
I do not know if all cops are poets, but I do know that all cops carry guns with triggers. And I know as well how we are labeled. So in the name of
No
Tyree
justice,
Woodson,
no peace.
beware of the triggers. Go home. Go have another drink. Keep warm. Stay safe away from these streets. Forget him. When he was alive, he was our hope. But why worry about a hope that's dead? So there's only one thing left to tell, and I've already told it. His name was Amadou Diallo.
I can't believe it!
No.
He believed in brotherhood. He was our hope. And he died.
All right now, we gotta pick up these fallen souls and lift them up high as we can. I know y'all remember who they were. Come on and follow us, y'all. Let's roll.